Namaskar. Hello and welcome to PGurus channel. I'm your host Sree Iyer. Joining me today is Kalavai Venkat as we talk about a Trump presidency and what it's going to do with the Khalistani movement, which I funnily refer to as Khotestani movement. Kalavai Venkat ji, Namaskar and welcome to PGurus channel. How are you?
Namaskar, Sree Iyer sir. How are you?
I'm doing well. See, very interesting undercurrents, as I would like to say, because there's, some amount of rejoicing in the community in California that one of our own, 𝗪𝗓𝗏 has been appointed an assistant attorney general. However, people, once they start looking at her past antecedents, her track record, she has been a Khalistani sympathizer. Now, she has been trying to underplay it, which is okay. You always have to move to the center when you come to power. But some of her Sancho Panzas have been going up about saying, SB 403 will be taken up at a federal level, blah, blah, blah. Except 2 days later, everything got sanitized. So somewhere house cleaning is going on at a large scale. Now we are also seeing in Canada, the first 3 times when they had these proof of life camps where the consular officers came to temples to help out senior citizens, there were a lot of disturbances. And then we saw the true colors of the police department in some of the cities. Let's just set this thing aside. Then on the 30th of November, that weekend, 2 or 3 events went off and they all went off peacefully. That's good. So there is some feeling that, okay, we have had a good run. Now we cannot really do anything. This is Canada. You see how it is. And then we had the other situation that I'm going to let you talk about, where Trudeau had to fly down to Mar-a-Lago. In fact, everybody is visiting Mar-a-Lago like it is the White House. So yeah, a lot of things are happening. Do you think?
And on that Trump's joke was Trudeau called me, and within 15 minutes she showed up at my doorstep.
So I yield the floor to you. Tell us a little bit about how you see this whole jigsaw puzzle falling in place.
Oh, definitely. I think what is happening is there is a very strong Khalistani separatism, terrorism, and which go hand in hand with hatred of India, hatred of Hinduism, right? So these are very common. And this has been going on in the US and Canada for the last at least 25 to 30
But that's
years.
not a majority view, though. It's only a very, very small minority, isn't it?
I'm not very sure. Okay, so because I would like to think so, or at least I would like to hope so. But here is what I'm looking at, right? So I think these are not happening in a void. Okay, so if you look at, for example, look at the illegal immigration that happens from Punjab to the US, where they come through the southern borders. And when Trump was in his first term until 2020, Quartz magazine reported that a lot of the Sikhs who come to the US illegally, they were paying around $20,000 per head to the mules, okay, who are bringing them. Those are the traffickers who are bringing them into the US. Typically, what they used to do was to fly them to Panama, and then from Panama, put them on the road all the way up to Mexico and then cross the border. But in the last few months, it increased to $125,000. That's a little over 1 crore rupees. That's the amount they are paying. So when you look at it, how is this all being paid, right? So there is a huge Hawala network, okay? So there are Sikhs, who are Khalistanis or Khalistani sympathizers from Punjab, from India, and then they come here, and then how they raise this money, and that how that money is transacted, how is it converted into US dollars? There is no other way it can happen except through Hawala transactions, except through money laundering, okay? So because the traffickers in Mexico and other places are not taking Indian rupees. They are taking US dollars. Okay. So then when these people show up, it's very well known that many of these illegals who are coming here are hosted by the Gurdwaras, okay, or they end up working in the Sikh-owned businesses and farms and other things. So I do think there is a very deeper nexus because this Sree Iyer often happens with communities that are very clannish. And you would have read, Professor Thomas Sowell, one of the greatest economists of our times, and who taught at Stanford, Hoover, and other places. And he makes a very interesting observation. Okay, he makes an observation that communities that migrate thrive. Okay, those communities, their average IQ goes up, they thrive, they generate wealth, they have a very positive disposition towards life. On the other hand, communities that are entirely relying upon agriculture, which is the case with the Jet Sikhs. That's not the case with the Khatri Sikhs, Aroras, and others, but that's the case with Jet Sikhs, who are the majority who have shown up in Canada and the US illegally. And then they are entirely dependent on agriculture. So what agriculture does is it creates a very clannish mindset. And then we have seen that starting from the 70s, late 70s, when Bhindranwale used to propagate separatism and terrorism and all these things, a large number of Sikhs have been brainwashed. Okay, and it is the brainwashing from India that then traveled to the US and Canada. So I do think there is a large section of Sikhs who are sympathizers, and we saw that even in the parliamentary elections. Okay, terrorists were elected in India. Okay, and then when you come here, you find a large number of Khalistani sympathizers from the Sikh community protesting, bullying the Hindus, bullying the diplomats, and indulging in violence and everything, burning the effigy of Prime Minister Modi. What did he do to them? He did no harm to them whatsoever. It was in fact Rajiv Gandhi of Congress who carried out the massacre of Sikhs in 1984. But these none of them have even a single word of condemnation for Congress or for Rahul Gandhi or anyone, even though his father, Rajiv Gandhi, was the one who killed them, carried out a genocide, okay, government-sponsored genocide in 1984. They don't talk about that, okay? They express their hatred only for Prime Minister Modi, and I think they attack the Hindu temples in a very selective manner. All of these need an explanation, and I'm going to be very, very candid, and I'm going to be very direct here. I do think there's a lot of Khalistani sympathy among the Sikhs. Then either that or there are a lot of good Sikhs, okay, who hate separatism, who are very friendly with Hindus, but they are not speaking up. But regardless, it doesn't make a difference, because if, so just I'll complete this sentence. So one can also put forth the argument that, most of the Sri Lankan Tamils were not LTTE sympathizers, but it did not make a difference, right? At the end of the day, if the only voice that emerges from the community is that of the LTTE, it's going to lead to a catastrophe like it happened 14, 15 years ago, okay, in Mulai Vaikal, okay. Then you look at the Sikh community, the hatred for Hindus, hatred for BJP and Modi, and hatred for India is there across, okay, the community. That's the only vociferous signal we receive from the community. We don't find too many of them coming out. There are a few, definitely, like, Amarjit Singh, retired IFS officers and others, then Puneet Sahani and others. They do publicly come and speak up, but they are fewer in number. Okay, so yeah, it's possible that many of them are just keeping silent, but then they should know that silence is not really an option, and they need to speak up. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much. And I've also had another retired Indian Administrative Services officer, Iqbaljit Singh, if I remember correctly, his name is. He was a BJP member. He had come a very, very balanced perspective. I've also had the fortune of having Ramnik Singh Man, another centrist, who has talked about what it is. So it's the silent majority is, I think, speaking a little bit. Venkatji, the two things that I want to talk. First question, maybe let me ask the first question, because you've said a lot of stuff in your first opening salvo itself. Money laundering, you said that unless there is hawala money laundering, they would not be getting this money. Yeah. I agree. But then in order for somebody to get $100,000, where the outcome is uncertain, meaning like they will go to wherever the destination is, who is fronting the money? If they are fronting the money, then they don't have dollars. You said Indian that taxpayer. They don't have dollars. So what are they giving?
So it's the Indian taxpayer who is funding them, and this is how it happens. So what happens is, Punjab was a very enterprising state right after independence, right? They came as both the Hindus and Sikhs from what would become Pakistan came as refugees, but then they were hardworking, enterprising. They work hard. They wanted to generate wealth, and in a matter of a decade or so, they had emerged as a very affluent community. However, that was around 1960, 1962. Okay, that was a time when India was predominantly an agrarian economy. Okay, so if you were a farmer, and most of the Sikhs would be, if they had three sons in the family, one of them will go and work for the government, one of them will go and work in the army, the other will be taking care of the farmland, and then that worked very well in those days. Okay, however, agriculture is a low productive job, and it is not a high information profession. It's not cognitively demanding. Okay, so starting with the late 80s, the entire landscape changed. Okay, so for example, southern India, Maharashtra, Gujarat, and others, they diversified into modern economy. They skyrocketed. Okay, so they simply took off from there. and that's where Punjab completely stagnated, and that was the period when Khalistani ideology started taking deep roots. Okay, so any kind of this kind of obscurantism that you find very commonly in Punjab, those things, they became very prevalent, and as a result, what happened was Punjab fell behind everybody else, even in agriculture, even in wheat production. For example, Subramanya Bharati talks about the wheat of Punjab that we could exchange for other goodies from the rest of India, like Tamil Nadu. Okay, but even in wheat production, in the quality of wheat, Punjab has fallen to third or fourth position. Okay, with Chhattisgarh and Madhya Pradesh and others leading the race. Okay, so because Punjab is no longer an innovating state, so what happens is they indulge in what I call annadata thuggery. Okay, so for example, all these farmers, they are looking for freebies. They want all the taxes to be cancelled, loans to be cancelled, and then the minimum price to be guaranteed for their produce. And they produce, most of the produce coming from Punjab is garbage. Okay, so however, the government is constrained to buy those things, lest they should go and blockade the roads and other things. So they buy. However, what happens is most of this produce is substandard. They sit rotting in the FCA godowns. Okay, and from where the distilleries of Punjab, which are also run by the very same folks who are selling the substandard grains to the government in the first place, are also running the distilleries. Okay, so now they buy back these things at a throwaway price. Okay, so now this is how the taxpayer money is channeled to them. And then at that point, what they do is it goes into part investment in land. Okay, in Punjab. So you would have noticed that over the last 100-120 years or so, the land distribution in Punjab got completely skewed. Okay, so like 95% of the land is now owned by Jet Sikhs. Okay, it's not owned by other communities like the Mazhabi Sikhs, who are the scheduled castes in Punjab and others. They own very little land. Like 95% of the agricultural land is owned by them. But also another thing happened. The Sikh community, the Jet Sikh community that were also distributed in parts of Haryana, they benefited when the IT revolution, outsourcing revolution happened, not by doing anything innovative, but by simply selling a small tract of land they possessed. Okay, if they had something in Gurgaon, they sold it, they made a ton of money. But if you don't build a cognitive foundation to reinvest all this money, you will find other ways of leveraging that. That's what they did. Okay, among the Sikhs in particular, there has been a craze to move to the West, and then that's where all of this money that they earned, either through speculative real estate sale or through downright thuggery, okay, of extracting the taxpayer money in the name of agricultural subsidy and minimum guaranteed price, and then this money now, so this is a vicious cycle, right? So every dollar goes into acquiring more and more of the land, okay, wherever the Sikh communities are, and then this land is mostly owned by or to a large extent owned by Khalistani sympathizing Sikhs that have settled down abroad. Okay, they could be in Canada, they could be in US and other places. That's why every time that visa is cancelled, they start screaming, because they still hold a lot of land in India and they have to bring it here. Okay, and then they have to bring the money here. Okay, so the only way they do that is through hawala transaction, through money laundering. Okay, so it's the Indian taxpayer money that goes into the pockets of the Khalistani sympathizers in Punjab. Then it gets routed through the laundering channel so that it becomes US dollars, and then that's what is funding their illegal migration to the United States and to Canada in particular.
So if I understand you correctly, the Indian taxpayer is paying them twice. Once to buy bad rotting wheat and rice, put it in their store godowns, make it rot even further, and then selling it off for a song where you are losing money. I'm not even adding that part. That also is actually taxpayer money. Then what happens is the finished product, which is wine and whiskey and all the other liquor, again, that is being allowed to come back onto the market. Now, the thing is, you are the first person to explain this, Kalavai. I mean, viewers understand this. There are how many thousands of channels in India? Did anyone do a deep dive into what is going on in Punjab? Why is it that, Kalavai Venkat has to do the actual diligent research and do it? Ask yourself this question. Some of you are very correct in your comment that there are some who put so much vitriol. I'm like, why am I even running this channel? I ignore that. But my point is, so look, somebody has taken the interest. Sorry, Kalavai, I just have to take 1 minute.
No, you
Somebody
should.
has
You
taken
should.
the
Please,
somebody has
yeah.
taken the interest and the diligence to look at something, a broader canvas, what is happening, how is the money coming in, and how it is being used. Now, the only way to hit them, looks like, is to basically seize their properties in India and cancel their OCA, so that they have to apply for visa every time they want to come to India, and make it as hard as possible. That is one side. So you are
We can
punishing
and we
them.
should do we can and we should do that for certain, right? And there should be a complete repository of all of these Khalistani sympathizing Sikhs living in the US or Canada or UK, and then we should create a database, and then their OCA card should be straight away cancelled. They and their families cancel their OCA card. OCA card is a privilege, okay? It's not your right, okay? So cancel it, number one, so that they can never set foot in India. And then second thing they should also do is um, look at the large scale land holding. Okay, in most of the parts of the country, land ceiling act was implemented. Okay, not in Punjab. Okay, so the second thing to happen is it is a survival for us, right? I think if we tolerate this and if this goes on, they will go about destroying India. Okay, so and that we shouldn't tolerate. Instead, what we should do is, there are must be Sikhs, there are Ravidasis and others, who are also Sikhs, but then they are, for example, in Golden Temple, they won't be even allowed to take back that tank. Okay, there is no, there used to be two different tanks for a long time. Okay, so much about, so much for all the alleged lack of casteism in Sikhism. In fact, Sikhism has the highest rate of untouchability. For example, 34% of Punjab population are scheduled castes, untouchables. Okay, so just I'll complete this point. I think one more thing what we need to do is to help the Trump administration. We'll talk about a few other things, what Trump will be doing, but I think one thing he's going to crack down absolutely certainly is on money laundering, because money laundering and drugs are two sides of the same coin. Okay, and just 2 days ago, Trump made a statement that while the number of illegal immigrants that are crossing into the US from the Mexican border is more and relatively less from the Canadian border, the flow of drugs is more from Canada into the US. Okay, and these are deadly drugs, like starting from fentanyl and other things, and these are all run by Khalistanis. Okay, so I think what happens is this kind of peddling of drug destroys American society, and then the laundered money fuels this drug trade. Okay, so Trump is absolutely keen on cracking down on that. So I think here are a few things we should do, we Hindus as well as right-minded Sikhs. Okay, I assume I'm at least hopeful that there is a substantial section of Sikhs living in the US, Canada, and other places, who are not infected by the Khalistani ideology. What we need to do is to create a comprehensive database, okay, that starts with their businesses. Okay, every single, or at least a large number of stores, restaurants, etc. They are run. They employ a large number of illegals. They employ, they don't pay taxes. Most of that is done on cash and other things. Those are the routes for money laundering, right? So those are the ones we need to, provide information to ICE and others so that they can start cracking down on these folks. Okay, and once the crackdown starts, what will happen is in a matter of months, one thread will lead to the other, and there will be a large number of people who will be incarcerated. The Khalistani sympathizers will be incarcerated, and there'll be crackdown. And I just want to add one more point. For example, Canadians, at least the agencies, if not Trudeau, recognize this danger. Okay, because that's why CSA has listed Khalistan as a terrorist ideology that indulges in repeated violence, right? And we have seen some elements of violence, like the attacks on the Hindu temples, the attacks on the Indian diplomats. Those things nobody does. Okay, but these people have been doing, and then I think the Canadian agencies recognize that these people would eventually turn out to be a threat to Canada too, because they are clannish, they are casteist, they are clannish, okay, and then they are obscurantists. Look at the lifestyle they lead, and you will find something like while it's common for us to see Sikh men wearing the pagadi, you would have rarely seen Sikh women wearing pagadi in India. Okay, but this trend has started among some of the Canadian Sikhs, some of the American Sikhs, where the women wear this repulsive attire, which I don't think is in any way different from wearing a hijab or a burqa, which the Muslim women are forced to wear. So there is a lot of obscurantism. So Canadians do recognize, at least the agencies do recognize, that's why CSAs came up with that report, that this is a ticking time bomb, okay, that will eventually turn on Canada too. Because for no reason, if these people could indulge in hatred against Hindus just to fulfill their clannish, orgasmic, wet dreams, then they will turn on Canada too in the near future. Okay, that's why they are cracking down on it. And I think Trump will absolutely crack down. And more importantly, once the drug money and then the illegal immigration is stopped, Khotestani movement dies at that moment.
Thank you, Ket. A couple of observations. OCI card does not give you rights to purchase agricultural land. So if these people are holding agricultural land in India and if they are having OCI card, one of the two has to happen. Either they lose their land or they lose their OCI automatically. You cannot have agricultural land as part of an OCI card holder.
No, they don't have it as. So the way they do that is two ways. Okay, one way is binomy holding, which is the most common one. Okay, because remember, these are very, very clannish people. Okay, so it's not that I mean, you will see atrocious things like they will illegally come here. Okay, and then there are all those shady marriages that happen, and then they do the reunion and all these things that the rest of Indians won't even dream of doing, okay, just to get a foreign citizenship. So what they do is, a lot of them have binomy land holdings, okay, it will be done in the name of some of their relatives sitting in India, okay, and then the reason they won't betray is their own family members would then repatriate to Canada illegally and all these things, okay, and then hence they cannot stab each other in the back. So clans always have operated, and then there's a very old, evolutionary biology principle, they turn on the others to parasitize them, and then they operate to the benefit of the clan. Okay, so this is the primary mode of land holding. Okay, but if you crack down on them and prevent these guys from using their OCI card to come to India, then their ability to control their relatives start collapsing. Okay, and then eventually they will start turning on each other. Then the second way they hold this is, many of them do also have Indian identity card. It could be Aadhaar card. It could be, a lot of those they got earlier, okay, before, stringent measures are put in place, biometric scans were taken and all that stuff, okay. And I do not know still whether the biometric scans for Aadhaar card are matched with the biometric scans for OCI. I don't even know whether there is real biometric beyond fingerprint for, I just remember when I got my OCI card, I just gave me a thumbprint, right? I don't think there was real biometric scan or anything. So most of them get away with that because they do, have some Indian identity under which they hold land, agricultural land. But we should be able to crack down on them, because today we have the technology to match biometric ID to come up with a pretty solid, indicator that these are fake IDs, these persons are not here, and we should be able to crack down on them.
Thank you, Venkat. I had a couple of things. One was the OCI thing that I mentioned. The second thing that I wanted to mention, you mentioned that 34% of Punjab is Dalits. One interesting thing, the caste discrimination exists as law in United Kingdom today.
Correct.
They are not implementing it. That's a different matter, because it's going to be very expensive and it's going to cause more schisms in the society, which the government wisely wants to avoid, both the Labour as well as Conservative. But the basis for the law was the number of cases documented of caste discrimination. There were 32 cases. 32 cases.
Most of them were, I think almost all of them were against the Jet Sikhs. Okay.
29.
29.
29.
Right.
I'm saying this here because I know some of these loudmouths will listen to our videos. Look, you need to first set your own house in order. Khotestan is all bullshit. You are not going to go back to Pakistan. You are not going to go back to Punjab. You are not going to go anywhere. You're going to sit here and just think that you are causing trouble. And like you said, indulging in orgasmic delight about how they are causing trouble to India. This is not something that India is going to just like that give up. You already know some things are happening. And the other point you said about the moderate Sikhs turning around, what had happened is, this is what I'm hearing from the ground, Venkatji. This is from Canada, right? Because we are still, it's not so prevalent in India, in California, except in some pockets. Fresno area, there is a Sikh presence. Sacramento area, there is a Sikh presence. Yuba City, there is a Sikh presence. But beyond that, you don't see it a whole lot.
Correct.
Every Gurudwara, of course, you have to determine whether it's moderate or not moderate. Those are there. My point I'm trying to say is that the moderate Sikhs felt very, very offended and disturbed that these extremist elements chose to attack Hindus in their temples.
Yeah.
Because they went inside the temple and attacked them.
I think that outrage is a genuine outrage, because about 2.5 years back, we had gone for Char Dham Yatra, okay, in India, with the extended family, and at that time I did find a lot of young Sikhs, okay, who had also come there as pilgrims. That actually made me happy, because for quite a period in between, they would not show up at the temples, but now I think it is changing. So I do think the change you are mentioning on the ground is real, but how prevalent it is, I'm a little bit skeptical. But I do think that many of them may feel outraged, but may not come out publicly, because they fear getting shunned by the rest of the community, by the rest of the Sikh community. But here is where I have a message for them, right? So look at the Sikh community, as well as the Hindu community that came from Pakistan as refugees in 1947. Okay, so every family, since we are talking about Khalistan, let's focus on the Sikhs for a moment. Even though the same sufferings both the Hindus and Sikhs underwent in 1947. Okay, but let's talk about the Sikhs, because that's the topic of our conversation today. So in 1947, when they came, every single family had suffered. Okay, so someone had been slaughtered in the family, someone had been raped, and then we also know what happened to those women. Many of those women were taken by the Islamists, and they were sold into sex slavery in brothels in Lahore and other places. Okay, this is how they treated, but it did not end there. Okay, so when Sikhs retaliated, Hindus also retaliated, and then the Jats chased out the Muslims who were living in Punjab and Haryana at that time, and then they had also taken a lot of the Muslim women. Okay, but the difference was they did not sell them into brothel. Instead, they married them. Okay, they converted them to Sikhism. However, right after independence, especially from 1951, 1952, what Jawaharlal Nehru did was he sent Mrinalini Sarabhai, okay, Vikram Sarabhai's wife, okay,
Girlfriend of Banjan Nehru.
Yeah, exactly. Nehru slept around with her and all that stuff. So, that could be a separate topic another day, because, that those are the disgraceful aspects of Indian history. So what happens is he sends her, and he sends his own ugly sister, Vijayalakshmi Pandit. Okay. Both of them, they go with a police force to Punjab. Okay. They round up these females, Muslim women who had been married to Sikhs, now who have children. Okay. Some of them have 2-3 children by this time. Okay, and then they round them up, and then they send them back to Pakistan. Okay, because this falls in line with the Islamic jurisprudence, with the Islamic law, that a Muslim woman cannot marry a non-Muslim man. Okay, so that is forbidden in Islam. So Nehru complies with that and sends them there. However, he makes zero effort to bring back a single Sikh woman or a Hindu woman who had been sold into sex slavery, into the brothels of Pakistan. Okay, not one of them was brought back. Okay, so what is happening here is that the reason I gave that background is this is something which the Sikhs should be very proud of, because they come in as refugees, they've lost everything, but they did not go down. Like Phoenix, they rose from the ashes. Okay, and then they built a prosperous community, and that worked really well until the time India was an agrarian economy. Okay, and there were even some heavy industries in Punjab at that time, and some textile industries and other things that worked. Okay, but that economy is over. That economy got over in the 80s itself. Okay, so they failed to transition over. Okay, now you look at all of these. Take India for example, and then you just look around something like IIT JEE Advanced. You look at the number of North Indian Vaishya kids. Okay, who ace the exam. Look at the top 100 ranks, and you'll be amazed how many of them show up. And then you go and count how many Sikh boys or girls are in the list. You will not find any one of them. Okay, so I think the story is the same. You look at the selection list at IIM Ahmedabad, you'll find a lot of Kayastas, you'll find a lot of Vaishyas, you'll find a lot of Brahmins and others, you'll find a lot of Reddys, but very rarely do you find Sikhs acing that and getting to that level. Okay, so what is happening is a community that used to be at the forefront of innovation until the 80s has fallen by the wayside. Okay, and one of the prime reason for that is the religious obscurantism and Khalistani ideology. Okay, both of that tied them down and poisoned their community. And it's not for any other reason, for the single reason that they should bounce back to the glorious days when they were a thriving, innovative, industrious community. It's only for that single reason, for their own survival, that the Sikhs should not only shun the Khalistani movement, but should come out publicly denouncing that and identifying themselves with the Hindus.
Yes, indeed. Thank you so much. And we also want to touch upon the one interesting comment that Trump made when Justin Trudeau went down to meet him at Mar-a-Lago. He said that if you impose 25% taxes on or tariffs on Canada, Canada's 100 billion economy will collapse. So Trump is rumored to have said, well, you can become the 51st state of United States and you can be the governor of that state. It could be sounding a little harsh, but there is some truth in what he's saying, isn't it?
Absolutely. See, I mean, that's by the way, that 100 billion is the deficit, right? The US trade deficit. US is getting ripped off to the tune of $100 billion. That's what Trump was telling. Yeah, it is absolutely true, because what is happening is Canada enjoys the status as a first world nation only because of two reasons, right? One, it's a neighbor of the United States, and two, it's a white nation with a lot of land and land resources. That's it. Okay, it is. When was it last that you looked at some technology innovation coming out of Canada? Okay, very rare. Okay, and how often do the brightest of the students from IITs and other places, they target Canada as a destination for higher education? Never. Okay, so it's only the failures and the discards that they end up showing in those places because they cannot make it to good colleges in the US. Okay, so yeah, so I think what Trump said was absolutely right, because neighbors cannot be exporting terrorism, cannot be exporting drugs, cannot be facilitating illegal migration into the US. Okay, and then be the conduit for terrorism, and then also expect goodwill gesture from the United States. So I think what Trump has done is brilliant. Okay, he has put down and ridiculed Trudeau so much that the opposition leader, when he was asked about the same thing, hey, what is the remark about Trump making these comments about Canada? He did not criticize Trump. Okay, he did not say that Trump was wrong. Okay, he was not even defensive. He straight away said, all of this is said because Trudeau is weak. Trudeau is incompetent. Trudeau cannot rule. Okay, the day he is defeated, the relationship with the US will change totally.
Thank you so much, Venkat. And viewers, if you have not already liked this video, please do so. I did not see the notification come across. One notification, usually you get two notifications. I got only one. So we are having lesser traffic than normal. I'm surprised that, Venkat is like an accomplished guest on our channel. The amount of information he brings to the table is unparalleled. So Venkatji, let's take a few questions if you don't mind.
Please, let's do that.
I just need to line them up. I'm actually doing everything today on my own. Just give me 1 second. We have 4 or 5 questions. Just 1 second.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. PS wants to know, thank you for your bravery in discussing some sensitive topics. What is the government doing to deal with money mobilization?
I assume it's the Indian government.
Yeah.
Right now, it's not doing much. Okay, because the main thing was, the last 2 farmer protests. I think what Modi is doing is playing more of a patient game on this, because the challenge is Punjab is also a sensitive state. It's a border state, and then about 25% of the Punjab population is Jet Sikhs. Okay, and who are the main sympathizers of Khalistani terrorism, and then they hold 95% of the land, and then they control the rural side. So he wouldn't want a situation where the secessionists get an upper hand. Okay, so that's why I think he's tolerating. However, what I noticed was that during the second farm protest, the Sikhs lost complete sympathy. Okay, any support base they had completely eroded. Okay, and then now this time around, Haryana is straight away cracking down on them and not even letting them cross that Singhu border. Okay, so this, I think, the message is very clear that the Hindus are increasingly realizing that we cannot tolerate this kind of Khotestanis/Sikh separatism. I don't make a distinction between the two. Okay, both stem from the same fear of modernity. Both stem from clannish casteist thinking. Both stem from religious obscurantism. Okay, so but increasingly the Hindus are realizing it, and I think when it comes to the stage that Hindus say, look, if you want us to patronize your businesses, okay, if you go to North India, a lot of the retail business, Sikhs have a big role to play there, right? Or you take something like dairy farming, like non-dairy and other things, Sikhs do have a role to play. Okay, they are playing a big role, and that's their source of revenue. But the moment Hindus begin to realize, no, we cannot tolerate this behavior, and then they start boycotting Sikh businesses, I think that's when Indian government may start cracking down very openly, because at the time they know that they have the support of Hindus. Okay, so the problem is not, if you want the government of India to mobilize against, act against the mobilization of money. Okay, then so take for example the minimum price, right? So the guarantee the jet6 farmers have been demanding. Okay, in India, in terms of overall productivity of all the grain, right, including the cash crop, Punjab is 15th or 16th. Okay, even in wheat, it's third or fourth. Okay, so but the government is forced to pay precious tax money to buy all the garbage that comes out of Punjab farms. Okay, however, this can be only stopped. Okay, because others are not demanding, right? Other farmers from Chhattisgarh, from Telangana and other places, they are competing in the market. Okay, so they have modernized themselves, they are competing in the marketplace. Okay, so we are yielding to the bully. Okay, but this yielding will stop the moment Hindus realize and come together as a single block. They will say, we will not tolerate this. Okay, we will not tolerate the slightest expression of Khalistani sympathies. If it happens, we boycott your business. Okay, if it happens, we have no truck with you. When that mobilization begins to happen among the Hindus, okay, then I think the government will be will be ready to crack down on the subsidies, buying all the garbage at minimum selling price and all these guarantees. It'll crack down on that. It'll crack down on the middlemen, who are lending money and then profiting from that, driving it into a vicious cycle. Like we talked earlier about in one of the previous podcasts, we talked about microfinancing in Bangladesh. It's the same crime that happens in Punjab, where it is mandatory microfinancing. Okay, where a few of these predatory money lenders force the rest to take money, and it's a criminal syndicate. Okay, disaster. And I think there's one more thing that ought to happen. Most of the tillers, okay, 90% of them working in Punjab are not Sikhs. Okay, these are from other communities like Yadavs, Ahirs, and others, who have come from Uttar Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Bihar, and other places, Madhya Pradesh, and Rajasthan, and they work here. And what the government ought to do, and this will happen only when the Hindus come together with one voice, okay, and start supporting the BJP. What has to happen is redistribution of the land so the tiller owns the soil. Okay, when that happens, we would have destroyed Khalistani movement and all kinds of Sikh separatism at that point.
Absolutely. And viewers, we have done a couple of programs. I myself have done these monologues about what was happening during the crop burning also. I don't know if you have seen that video, I actually showed satellite maps of how much crop burning was brought down in Haryana and how much it was prevalent this year in Punjab. Not only in Punjab, but West Punjab, it's inside Pakistan, also was burning their crop. So these rascals know that the dust flows from there across to India and into Delhi. Delhi had one of the worst air quality this time around because these people continue to burn. And why is that? Because Aam Aadmi Party is in power. They did diddly squat. This is an incompetent nincompoop who's running that government, and there is a bigger nincompoop who's sitting in Delhi. Hopefully the people of Delhi will vote him out this time around. What I'm trying to say is this 40 plus years, Bhajpa has never, because I'm not even counting before that. Bhajpa was not even a party before that. Bharatiya Janata Party was not even a party before that. The BJP has never been in power except in coalition with Shiromani Akali Dal. Akali Dal itself is imploding, so there are other problems there. Not only that, the youth that are left in Punjab, they are saying 1 in 4 in 10 or 2 in 5 are addicts now. 2 in 5.
Yeah.
Men and women. It's not just one community. Not only that, you have rampant conversion going on among the 34% Sikh Dalit community that you mentioned. That is another thing going on. The Jalandhar priest who has been sentenced for raping charges of nuns, this guy still roams around free.
Yeah.
So a lot of problems in Punjab.
So both the two problems you mentioned, just I wanted to comment on that. Right? The first one is the crop burning or the husk burning. It doesn't happen in any other part of India, right? So look at the states that produce the finest rice in India. Okay, like Telangana. Okay, like Chhattisgarh and other places.
Chhattisgarh,
where they produce some of the best rice, both in terms of the value, in terms of quality, in terms of agricultural productivity, overall portfolio management. At the end of the day, all of these things turn into finance portfolio management. Okay, you're selling a portfolio. You're not selling rice. Okay, you're not selling wheat. Okay, so it's portfolio. At the end of the day, that's what sustains the economy. And nobody in Telangana or Chhattisgarh or Madhya Pradesh or Maharashtra or anywhere, they are not burning crop. They are not burning husk. Okay, the only place where it is happening is in Pakistan and among the Jet Sikh farmers. And it is intentional crime because this is stemming. There's no other reason to do that, right? Because you can actually take that husk and you can sell it to distilleries, okay? And they buy it. They process that for their fermentation. They use that for the fermentation processes. They can actually do that. They wouldn't do that when farmers everywhere in India are doing it. They wouldn't do that only because they are consumed by a hatred of Hindus, a hatred of India, and then they know that the wind is blowing in one direction. It will take everything to Delhi and other places and ruin that, or it will take it to Chandigarh. And this is something a lot of Hindus and others are unaware of, that historically, going all the way back to the late 1800s, when, Kahan Singh Nabha wrote this book, Hindu Nahi Hai, okay, we are not Hindus. Okay, so they were all the bootlickers of the British. Okay, when he wrote that book, and then from that time onwards, throughout, one of the common complaint of many of these obscurantist Sikh fanatics is that Hindus are way too modern. Okay, so look at the cities. Okay, those who are living in the Shahar like Chandigarh. So their argument was they are very modern. Okay, so they are not conservative enough. Okay, so that's how they separated themselves. Okay, just exactly what the Muslims do. Okay, the rest of modern Western society is too liberal, and that threatens our religious belief and our lifestyle. So we should isolate ourselves. Okay, this isolationism started there, and that fueled their hatred towards the Hindus. Okay, that fueled their hatred towards India. Okay, and that's what is driving activities like husk burning. Okay, because it's seen as means to poke the fingers into the eyes of the Hindus and Indians. Okay, this is number one. Second thing, you talked about drug problem, right, in Punjab. Okay, so this is, the problem is real. Okay, but then the question we must ask is, you look at all the neighboring places, right, like Gurgaon in Haryana. Haryana is a much, much bigger economy. Okay, like Gurgaon generates so much more money than all of Punjab put together. Okay, or you look at Noida in Uttar Pradesh. Noida generates a lot of money because of multinationals and banks and others and the software companies operating there. There's a ton of money. Okay, but you don't have a massive drug problem. Okay, if drugs, how long does it take to take heroin or cocaine or meth or keto or anything in a bus or something? It's so easy, right? If drugs can travel to the Punjab villages, why won't they travel to Shimla, where there is more money? Why not to Jaipur? Why not to Gurgaon, Noida, New Delhi, Mumbai, and other places? Okay, where there is orders of magnitude more money. But Maharashtrians, Gujaratis are not crying about a drug problem, but that problem exists in Punjab. Why? The reason is Gurdwaras in rural Punjab. Okay, so rural Punjab has been ruined. Like we talked about how Punjab failed to re-innovate itself, particularly the Sikhs failed to innovate themselves, okay, and adapt to modern economy starting from late 80s, early 90s. Okay, and this failure to adapt drove them more and more towards an agrarian living, plus benefiting from speculation on land price, plus trying to migrate abroad. Okay, so, and all of this means they were not investing their time to acquire new skills. Because if you look at kids growing up in other places like Tamil Nadu and other places, or Maharashtra or Andhra Pradesh, they work very hard to become part of the modern economy. They acquire the skills to be part of modern economy. Okay, but even basic English language skills are completely lacking in all of Punjab. Okay, it is while the rest of India is moving forward, Punjab has been moving backwards. Okay, and this means they are going to sit idle for most of their day, not much to do. Okay, and that drives them more and more towards Gurdwara because that's their only community. And that's where the most obscurantist thinking, most separatist thinking, and most destructive ideas are planted and cultivated. And that's what is destroying Punjab. Okay, two factors. Okay, we talked about, and one of the reasons is it may be a bitter pill for most people to swallow, but their own Gurdwaras are the prime reason why the Sikh community, especially the Jet Sikhs, are going down in Punjab.
Well, this is actually a war of attrition, in my opinion, because, like you said, a lot of non-Punjabis are being asked to till the land. So it's just a matter of time before this thing will be set right. One important takeaway also here is people say that the whole crop burning came about because they started harvesting 3 crops in a year when they used to only do 2 crops. And the third crop was rice. And in order to harvest rice, they had to do it much earlier than the first regular crop. I think it's there are 2 names, Rabi and something Kharif. I think I don't remember exactly. These are time cycles. So because they had to do it before those 2, that in order for them to do the next one, they need to burn everything that they did for the rice harvesting. So they need to have the rice out of the fields, and then they need to burn the crops, and then they can be ready for planting of the next one. This was the logic given. Now there is so much rice being produced in Chhattisgarh and Telangana and other places. The Punjab farmer is not required to have 3 crops. They can go back to 2 crops. After all, there is a water table problem also in Punjab. Again, this is because of policies. India can actually take more water from the Indus Water Treaty, but for them to use that, they need something called as Yamuna-Satluj Canal. And the Yamuna-Satluj Canal, in turn, the Satluj actually links up with Ravi and Beas. So all the excess water can be used, and then that can solve the water problem also.
Yes,
I mean,
I
Punjab is an educated state. Take this thing. Punjab is an educated state. Why are you not taking up this offer? Sir, you wanted to say something.
Yeah, so I think the problem runs even deeper than that, right? So the entire topsoil in Punjab is eroded, okay, because
That's
of
true.
greed, because of lack of scruples. Let me be blunt about these things, because even the vegetables and other things that are produced in Punjab are injected with chemicals so that they look attractive and they are sold. And then, so from that perspective, do we even need any of the agricultural produce from Punjab? Okay, and I'm not saying this out of any spite or anything, but the simple question is, take rice for example. Okay, India leads the world in diabetes, right? So different types of diabetes. Okay, and then actually the problem with India is there is way too much proportion of simple carbohydrates and sugar in Indian diet. It does not matter which part of India you're from, whether you eat rice, whether you eat roti, whether you're a vegetarian, whether you're a meat eater, it doesn't matter. All diets in India have a very unhealthy proportion of simple carbohydrates and sugars, and these are always going to lead to every other health problem India is facing. So in other words, when you are importing more and more of these rice and other things from Punjab, you are actually going to incur a huge medical expense for decades to come, okay, downstream. So this is number one, right? And number two, when this is something a lot of the Punjabi farmers will tell you directly, okay, when you talk to them, okay, they don't consume the same produce they are selling in the market, okay, they grow their own stuff separately, okay, so they know that what they are selling is poison, and then we don't even know what kind of chemicals are being injected, and a bunch of videos have come out in the public domain explaining what is really going on there, and then what will be the consequences of those, okay, and then who is going to spend money on that, right? I think at some stage, yes, everything you said is legit. We can redirect the water of Indus, like the Satluj or Beas water and other things. They can start flowing more into India, and that should benefit the rest of India. But I don't think we should we should actually shrink the amount of agricultural produce we take from Punjab. Okay, most of them are not even fit for to be used as fodder for cattle. Okay, that
Yeah,
being the
that's
case, we
another
should
thing
not
I
be
heard.
not
That
not for human consumption, right? So we should
yeah.
actually crack it down because it's a crime. Okay, and what is being committed is a crime, and we don't have to go with that crime.
Thank you so much. Now let's go to the next question. I have just one more or two more questions. Ameya Rupal, thank you so much. Now that state elections are over, can Modi concentrate on real problems such as air quality, Manipur, Khalistan? Modi is on continuous campaign mode.
Yeah, but why just talk about Modi, right? Look at every single Indian city. Take Chennai, take New Delhi, take Bengaluru, and any other place, name it. Okay, every single city is terribly polluted. Okay, and we talk about AQI, right? Air Quality Index. And typically in the United States, Sree Iyer, what's the number, sir? It's normally what, 25 or below is good AQI, correct? Air
Yeah,
quality beyond 25, it's no longer green. It
it's
starts
poor. Correct,
turning
correct, correct.
slightly yellow, then amber, and then eventually red, right? And but you look at any of the, I mean, in the US, like California, when there were wildfires a couple of years ago, I think the AQI went to something like, 120, 130, and everybody was panicking, right? That was the headline news, okay, that the air quality in California has uh, deteriorated to terrible extent. But check the AQI in any Indian city, it's always way above even that threshold. Okay, something like 150, 160, etc. is very, very common in every Indian city. And we are tolerating that, despite the fact that this leads to all the respiratory illnesses in India. Okay, and then some of that, for example, during COVID, we experienced this case of a lot of young people in their 30s and 40s living in cities dying of black fungus in their lungs. Okay, that's because those are transmitted through respiratory pathogens, pollutants and other things, and that weaken their respiratory system. And then when COVID hit, many of them started dying, right? And despite all of that, we don't really, as a people, we don't really insist that, hey, I need clean air, I need clean water, okay, and I need a clean environment. And if we are not demanding that, okay, and then if you are willing to tolerate corrupt politicians like, Aam Aadmi Party or DMK of Tamil Nadu and others, um, ruining your cities, ruining the infrastructure, and destroying your environment, then we cannot, and if you're tolerating all of that, then we shouldn't expect Modi alone to fight the battle. Okay, I think the responsibility, the onus of changing rests on everyone's shoulders, not just the government. At the end of the day, a politician is going to do what the people are demanding, right? And if you are demanding quality air, quality water, so take America as an example. There is a concern about big pharma scam and other things. That's why Trump is able to nominate RFK Jr., who is going to crack down on them, right? So, and that's because the electorate wants it. And when Indian electorate wants it, Modi or any other politician would start cracking down on this. But otherwise, if we don't show the will, it's not going to happen. The outcome is not going to come.
Last question. Sanjay wants to know, Venkatji, you are predicting the unpredictable personality that is the president-elect Trump.
No, actually, Trump is not unpredictable. Trump, I would put it very directly. This may sound very counterintuitive. He's the most predictable person. Okay. Because right from the beginning, go back to his interviews from 1988. Okay. Where he's been talking about these things. He has been against war. Okay. He has been for small government. And then, he is pretty what you can call liberal in his thinking. Okay. And all of these things. Okay. And he has always been predictable. And one could have bet his life savings that Trump would not start a new war. And even now, one could have very openly said that no, Trump will not be aggravating the wars going on in the Middle East or in Russia and other places. He's actually absolutely predictable. And because he doesn't lie, he says what is in his mind. And when he says something, we can actually trust him.
And see, we have to remember that much of this was the making of people, the media, who didn't want Trump to come, including people from, one second, from the Republican Party. I'm trying to get this thing off of the screen and it's not going up. Okay.
Yeah. No, you said it right, because Trump is an outsider, right? Like, look at the media, who all they are attacking now. They are attacking Trump. They are attacking 𝗟𝗏𝗄𝐻 Gabbard. Okay, so they are attacking Kash Patel, and they are attacking Pete Hegseth and others, because these are all outsiders. These all want to completely overturn the establishment, and the establishment has been benefiting a lot from that. Okay, so establishment has always been starting wars for the last whatever, 50, 60 years, never-ending war. The only exception was Donald Trump. Okay, so when they do not start a new war, okay, and then they do not expand the government spending, then the entire military industrial complex, the big pharma, the big tech, everybody, they start losing money, okay, which they don't want. Okay, that's why there is a concerted campaign against Trump, but otherwise it's absolutely predictable, and I'm fine with these policies.
Thank you so much, Venkatji. And viewers, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. We'll be back with Venkatji 2 weeks from now. We have a habit, every 2 weeks we'll be doing it. Unfortunately, sometimes we are busy. He's traveling, I'm traveling. So sometimes the thing doesn't add up, but we will do our best to be bringing Kalavai on Wednesdays in Tamil and on Fridays in English at 8 p.m. Thank you so much, Venkatji. Namaskar.
Thank you very much, and namaskar.